The Anderson family has built this company over 3 generations, Dad always said at company meetings. Through hard work, determination, and good old-fashioned business sense. I watched the live stream of his latest speech from my penthouse office, noting how he conveniently left out the part where their good old-fashioned business sense was currently driving Anderson Manufacturing into the ground. Ms. Anderson? My assistant Jack appeared with the morning reports. Your parents' company's stock has dropped another 15% this morning. I nodded, pulling up the real-time trading data on my screens. 3 years ago, when I'd left my secure desk job at Anderson Manufacturing to start my own investment firm, they'd called me foolish, reckless, a disappointment. Catherine, Mom had sighed during our last family dinner. Some people are meant to be workers, not leaders. There's no shame in that. Now I watched as their empire crumbled while mine soared. Phoenix Capital, my foolish venture, had grown into a multi-billion-dollar investment firm. Not that they knew I owned it. To them, I was still their failed daughter working some mysterious job they never bothered to ask about. My phone buzzed, my brother Thomas calling for the 3rd time today. He'd taken over as CFO of Anderson Manufacturing last year, despite having none of my financial expertise. But he was the son, so naturally he was meant to lead. The board meeting starts in an hour, Jack reminded me. They're expecting Phoenix Capital's representative to discuss the potential investment. I smiled, straightening my Chanel suit, not that they'd recognize it without obvious logos. Any word from the anonymous investor they're so desperate to meet? You mean you? Jack grinned. They've been trying to uncover your identity for weeks. Your father's especially eager to meet the billionaire who might save his company. I picked up my presentation folder, sleek, modern, nothing like Anderson Manufacturing's outdated methods. Inside were 2 proposals. One to save their company and one to let it fail. Which one I presented would depend entirely on how today's meeting went. Ms. Anderson? Jack appeared again. Your brother left another message. He says it's urgent. Of course it was urgent. Anderson Manufacturing was bleeding money, losing contracts, and watching their stock price plummet. They needed Phoenix Capital's investment to survive. They just didn't know they were begging their own daughter for salvation. I stepped into my private elevator, thinking back to all the family dinners where they'd dismissed my ideas for modernizing the company. All the board meetings where they'd ignored my warnings about their outdated practices. All the times they'd chosen Thomas over me simply because he was male. The car's ready, Jack announced as we reached the lobby. And your parents just arrived at the board meeting. Perfect. I checked my reflection in the mirror. Gone was the dutiful daughter they'd relegated to a desk job. In her place stood a billionaire investor holding their fate in her hands. Oh, and Jack. I called as I stepped into the car. Make sure the conference room cameras are recording. I want to preserve their faces when they realize who they've been begging for money. Sometimes success isn't just about proving them wrong. Sometimes it's about making them admit it. And today, Anderson Manufacturing would learn exactly what their desk job daughter had become. Time to show them what real business sense looks like. The Anderson Manufacturing boardroom looked exactly as I remembered: mahogany table, leather chairs, and enough outdated thinking to fill a business history museum. I sat quietly in my place watching as my family filed in, none of them recognizing their own daughter. Amazing what a professional makeover and 3 years of success can do to change how people see you. The representative from Phoenix Capital is already here, Dad announced, surprise evident in his voice. Probably shocked that anyone would arrive before him, the great Richard Anderson. Thomas rushed in last, clutching financial reports that I'd already memorized. Sorry I'm late. The numbers this morning are worse than yesterday, I finished for him, speaking for the first time. Your stock dropped another 15%, your major contracts are under review, and your manufacturing processes are 3 generations behind your competitors. The room fell silent. Dad's face tightened. He never liked being challenged, especially not by a woman. And you are? He asked stiffly. Phoenix Capital's CEO, I replied smoothly. I thought it was time we met in person, given the gravity of your situation. Mom leaned forward, studying me with a frown. I could see the gears turning, the almost recognition. I'd planned my appearance carefully, different enough to confuse, familiar enough to nag at their consciousness. We were expecting. Thomas stammered. A man. I smiled. Yes, most people do. Rather like how you expected a son to save your company, Mr. Anderson. How's that working out? Dad's face reddened. Now see here. No, you see here. I cut him off, pulling up their financial data on the boardroom's screen. Your company is 3 weeks from bankruptcy. Your technological infrastructure is obsolete. Your leadership is. I glanced at Thomas. Inadequate. We just need temporary assistance, Thomas protested. A small investment. 3 billion is hardly small, I corrected him. And that's just to stop the immediate bleeding. Real modernization would cost twice that. Mom gasped. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Phoenix Capital is prepared to make that investment, I continued. With conditions. What conditions? Dad asked, his business mask slipping to reveal desperation. I stood, walking to the screen. Complete restructuring. New management. Modern manufacturing processes. And I paused for effect. A new CEO. Impossible. Dad exploded. This company has been led by Andersons for 3 generations. And will be led by an Anderson, I smiled, finally letting my careful disguise crack. Just not the one you expected. The recognition hit them in waves. First Mom, her hand flying to her mouth. Then Thomas, dropping his reports. Finally Dad, his face draining of color. Catherine. Surprise, I said softly. That desk job you relegated me to? It gave me quite a view of everything you were doing wrong. Everything I warned you about. Everything you ignored because what was it, Mom? Some people are meant to be workers, not leaders. The boardroom erupted into chaos. Board members whispering, Thomas trying to gather his scattered papers, Dad looking like he'd seen a ghost. You're Phoenix Capital? Mom whispered. I'm the billionaire you've been begging to save you, I confirmed. The anonymous investor you were so desperate to meet. The success story you never bothered to ask about. I clicked to the next slide, my acquisition terms. Now, shall we discuss your company's future? Or rather, my company's future. The silence was deafening. 3 years of dismissal, of condescension, of being told to stick to your desk job, all shattered in one perfect moment. The choice is simple, I continued. Accept my terms or face bankruptcy. Though I should warn you. I smiled at Thomas. I've already bought most of your debt. Either way, I own your fate. Sometimes karma needs a boardroom to make its point. And sometimes, the best revenge is becoming exactly what they said you couldn't be. I sat back down at the head of the table, Dad's seat soon to be mine. Shall we begin? The future of Anderson Manufacturing was about to change. And this time they had no choice but to listen to their desk job daughter. 1 month after the acquisition, I stood in my new office, Dad's old office, watching the transformation of Anderson Manufacturing unfold. The outdated machinery was being replaced with state-of-the-art equipment. The old management systems were giving way to modern technology. And my family, well, they were adapting. Sort of. Ms. Anderson? Jack appeared with the morning reports. Your brother Thomas is requesting another meeting about his new position. I smiled, remembering how quickly his CFO confidence had crumbled when faced with actual financial responsibility. Still struggling with the modern accounting software? He's failed the basic competency test twice, Jack confirmed. And your father is still refusing to clear out his office? I glanced at the boxes of old files and golf trophies still cluttering the corner. Remind him that his advisory role doesn't include squatting rights. My phone buzzed. Mom trying again. Catherine, darling, can't we discuss this as a family? Your father's very upset about the new organization chart. The one where he reports to me? I typed back. Funny how family hierarchy only matters when it's in his favor. The factory floor beckoned through my window, newly streamlined, efficiently humming with modern machinery. The same upgrades I'd proposed 3 years ago, when they told me to focus on your spreadsheets, dear. Your first company-wide address is scheduled for noon, Jack reminded me. The employees are eager to meet the new CEO. Of course they were. The story had spread like wildfire, the Anderson daughter they'd dismissed returning as their billionaire savior. The desk job worker who'd built an empire while they weren't watching. I straightened my designer suit, no hiding the labels now, and headed for the conference room. Thomas intercepted me in the hallway looking harried. Kate, about these new systems. It's Catherine, I corrected him. Or Ms. Anderson if you prefer. And yes, you still need to pass the competency test to keep your position. But I'm an Anderson, he protested. So am I reminded him. The one you all said would never run a business. Funny how things change. The conference room was packed, employees, press, and of course my family relegated to the second row. Dad sat stiffly in his non-executive chair, while Mom tried to maintain her social smile. I took the podium, surveying what was now my domain. 3 years ago I sat in this room as a desk worker, I began. I presented a plan to modernize Anderson manufacturing. To embrace new technology, new methods, new thinking. I was told to stick to my spreadsheets. The room was silent, hanging on every word. Today those spreadsheets own this company. Today that desk worker signs your paychecks. And today Anderson Manufacturing steps into the future, whether the old guard likes it or not. I clicked through my presentation, the new organizational structure, the modernization plans, the projected growth. Everything they'd dismissed 3 years ago, now being implemented under my authority. To those who supported the old way of doing things, I looked directly at my family. Change is no longer optional. Adapt or find new employment. To those who saw the need for progress but weren't heard, your time has come. Dad shifted uncomfortably as I announced the promotion of several young executives, all women, all previously overlooked. Anderson Manufacturing was built on tradition, I concluded. But it will survive on innovation. And it will be led by someone who understands both the spreadsheets and the strategy. After the address, Jack brought me the latest performance reports. Production efficiency up 40% since the new systems went online. Stock price recovering. And your brother failed his third competency test? And your father's looking for his golf clubs, Jack added. I had them moved to the storage unit with the rest of the old regime's treasures. I smiled, watching through my window as the new Anderson Manufacturing logo was installed, my design, my vision, my success. Miss Anderson? Jack appeared again. Your mother's here. Something about family dinner. Tell her I'm busy, I replied, turning back to my empire. Running a business, she said, I'd never understand. Sometimes success isn't just proving them wrong, it's becoming their boss, their savior, and their wake-up call all at once. I picked up my phone to decline another family dinner invitation. After all, I had a company to run. And spreadsheets to check.